I've got a little sample video here to kind of go over this payroll file that I've sent you here in the email. There's a lot going on in this file, and I've done some things that I haven't done before with the 940, 943, and some other areas where I'm preparing all the programming, but this is definitely ready for you to start testing out and playing around with so that we can get it exactly the way you want it to work. So let me go through, I'm trying to do about a 10-minute video here to go through every single little data entry area that I've got as fast as I can, explain how to do this, and then we'll show you what it spits out and also where you can put in your daily entry stuff and piece rate and everything that's going on. All right, so your employee info sheet is generally where you start. Put in employee's name. They need to be filling out the 2020 W-4s now, especially 2021's coming. So did they fill out a W-4? If they didn't, if you're working off an old W-4, you fill out different things here. You just put the number of allowances from the old W-4, and you don't have to fill out any of this purple area over here. So actually, I'll just remove that right now. Show you an old person first. So this person didn't fill out a 2020 W-4. They have 2 allowances. They are married. They're in Washington. The local city and tax doesn't look like that matters. What type of workers' comp? I have everybody at this regular workers' comp rate, which is the employer portion that you gave me and the employee portion. Am I pulling this out of the check? I should be right. Where's workers' comp employee? Yeah, employee workers' comp. I got it right there. So we are doing that. Back up for a second. So I've got your workers' comp and I also have your unemployment rate right here that you sign. I believe that's the wage base for 2019. Change next year. Let's go back over here to the right for a second. I have sick hours. You have the beginning balance of how many sick hours the employee had at the beginning of the year. You'd put that here. That'd be January 1, 2019 would be for this one. It starts off a whole chain of formulas in another sheet, but that would be their starting balance. And also, these are the questions related to the 2020 W-4 for each employee that does fill out a 2020 W-4. If you have questions about that, let me know. I did a whole video on the W-4 that I can point you to as well. So, a lot of times you'll get this just completely blank, like this. It would normally look like this, right? So you would start adding your employees down. I'll expand this for 50 or more employees after we get this thing all straightened out, but I'm just testing with 10 because it's easier. So that's how you fill all that stuff in. So once you've got your employee information in there, then you go to your daily entry sheet. So here's where I'm trying to do piece rate stuff as well as breaks and everything that you'd need to record for the day. And we can also add in different things like you were talking about project work or something. Say you want to talk about somebody working on a specific project. So you could say, project, and you could set up a list of project names. You could have the project names even over here. You could say project 1 or, whatever, project 2. I'm getting really creative. But you could have just lists of things and then keep them here. There's tons of different ways to do. You don't want to do bushel. You want to do projects here. If somebody was working on project 2 all day, and then we'll be able to sum all this stuff up in a different sheet once you have projects assigned to people. That's one way to do it, but it might get more complicated. We'll have to talk about how you want to track this stuff by daily or by pay period, which I'm going to talk about in a second when we get over to this pay period sheet, and I'll show you how it's constructed. So, all right, so on the daily entry sheet, you choose the employee's name. Let's go through somebody. Let's do Jenny Straw. Choose that. You don't mess with the dark columns. Anything light you usually mess around with. Light background, dark background is a formula that you don't want to mess around with. The date, whatever the date was, let's say it was today. Let's say they worked 8 hours. So yes, so the way you're keeping track of your hours. I did not formulate in this sheet the complex overtime rules and such that you would need to determine if they work more than 40 hours a week or anything. I didn't do any of that. I'm giving you the option to just enter in their hours by day. I have an area over here for times and stuff where you can enter in times, in military format or whatever, and keep track of things, and it'll kind of tell you. No farmer showing up at 8 a.m. I'm sure they're there at like 5. I know somebody who farms actually in Colorado. He's there super early. So this will calculate the number of hours, and you could put breaks in there to reduce the time of the breaks. If there's 20-minute breaks, this is 9.67 hours if you can't see me there. Can't see that too well. You can enter in times, but you don't have to. And it also doesn't do anything with this hourly amount. So if you typed that there, really what you would need to be is like, oh, well, the person worked 9.67 hours. I really need to record that as they worked 9.67 hours and they had 2 breaks. That's the way you're supposed to do this. So we of course can change anything the way you want to do it, but that's how I've got it set up right now. So your hours would go here. Any overtime hours, you calculate them by day essentially. So you'd want to put everybody in as regular. I think this is what you probably do. Say you want to put everybody in as regular and you don't want to keep track about whether or not their overtime is daily yet. You could have all your hours like this. And then when you get back to your pay period record sheet here, and a lot of this stuff can be hidden, so you don't have to see it, and just can look at what you want to look. But I have formulas for everything in here, so I keep it open for myself. But when you get it, you're just going to want to see what you want to see. So in this area, let's look at Jenny Strauss, the pay period that we're working on. And a good way to filter for all this stuff is say, oh, we're messing around with the pay period that's related to, let's give her a lot of hours here. Let's give her like 12, 12, 12. Let's see what that does. Let's say that for Jenny Strauss, we care about just this 11/21 pay period. Click this filter here under week ending in this column D. You unselect everything. You go down. You're like, I want to see November. I want to see the 20, was it 28th or 21st? It was the 21st. And then you see everybody who's getting paid on the 21st pay period right here. You'll see she's got 42 hours. Well, you know it's supposed to be 40 plus 2. You could just go right ahead and do this if you wanted to. That's fine. You'd overwrite these formulas, but you would be correct. This is where the paycheck is getting generated from this information in the pay period record sheet. Now, I don't recommend doing that. I recommend doing it a different way and getting it right here. But sometimes when you're doing weekly versus daily overtime records, it comes out different ways. And we can talk about that in depth if that becomes more of an issue here. But I just want to show you some simulations of how you can keep track of your hours. Or you can do, in theory, you'd be better if you did it like this. Oh yeah, did the person spend sick hours? This is where the sick hours go. Vacation would be paid and not sick related. The breaks, how many breaks did they take throughout the day? Put the number of breaks here, assuming all the breaks are standard 10 minutes. I won't talk about sick for a second because I just mentioned it. The sick leave, that is connected to this running total sick leave thing going on. Right here, it tells you that all these is the year-to-date sick hours that these people would have available. You want to see something funny? It says Jenny only has 1 hour of sick leave left. The reason why is because Jenny is right here. She started with 15 hours of sick leave at the beginning of the year. Apparently, she accrued a little bit, but we just had her use 16 of it. So that's why she has almost none. If you look at Jenny's pay stub, this is what it would look like. Jenny Strauss pay stub for the pay period ending 11/21 is going to show you she has no rate. It's going to show you she has no rate. So let's talk about that. So this thing popped up in red because this is smarter than me. And it's telling you that you have not entered in a rate for this person, that their normal rate, whatever it is. Let's say it's 12. I don't know what minimum wage is in Washington or whatever, but whatever rate you have in there for the person. That rate goes right there. Once you do that, you're going to end up getting a paycheck. And this is what the paycheck would be. And you can see down here, it tells you what her sick hour balance remaining is. 0.84 hours she has remaining after using these 16. She's using 16 right there. All this stuff updates, and it's working pretty well. I haven't worked on state disability insurance. There's a bunch of other things I haven't done yet. God, we're already 10 minutes in. Let's keep going. But all right, so let me see. I just want to finish off. We have more to go here. This might be another 20-minute video. All right, so more things going on in here. You talked about paying people by piece rate. What I did was set up a little area over here. It's up at the top over here for different pieces, because I don't quite understand what you're saying, but I think I do. If somebody does a bushel of something, they get a certain amount of money per whatever, per container, per barrel. You can put whatever you want in here. Per crate, they get $10, whatever it is. You put it there. Let's get rid of this stuff for a second. You just put those things there. Then what you get for the person is kind of some sample stuff that I like put here. I said, all right, well, this employee, Johnny Appleseed, you're doing bushels. Johnny Appleseed's doing bushels, so the number of the thing, he did 7 bushels, so he should get $42. He did 5 bushels, he gets $30. So this all changes around whichever one you choose when you say how many it was. This piece reel pay amount is going to change. And that's going to carry over. So this is about all the data entry we need to worry about in the daily entry sheet when you want to do stuff by days. Now you go to the pay period record sheet after you've done your daily stuff. And you have everybody's, all the crux of this file, all the different formulas and stuff that's in here. So people need rates, like you don't really need to look at everything. Let me show you all the stuff that you could hide, but let me show you about calculated rates first. This is all the formulas, all the federal taxes and Social Security and family leave stuff and everything's in here, right? Workers' comp. Well, it's going to ask you to put a rate for somebody, and then it's already going to figure out what your break pay was. And I remember you sent me the publication about how the break pay needs to be calculated by either their hourly rate or this inferred rate, which is all of their compensation divided by their hours. And so I created what's called a calculated average rate, which is that formula, hopefully, that does figure out what their inferred rate is. And so what you'll like to see is that you have this manual hourly rate that you've chosen for the person, but then you have the calculated hourly rate that needs to be used to create the break pay, which it does automatically here. It chooses the one that's bigger and does pay for the break pay at that proper rate. Now, retroactively going back in time and looking at harvest from the future and changing a rate retroactively sounds like a mess, but you can do something like that in this file. It's going to retroactively change your paychecks, but you don't want to do that. I think you want to just accrue whatever the value was and then issue it on a subsequent paycheck when that amount is finalized. That's what I'm guessing you do. But it is a very complicated question because retroactive pay changes based on crops and stuff is pretty nuts. I'm surprised that it works that way. But I know you got to keep stuff above minimum wage and everything. Now, all right, so what else do we need to talk about in this pay period record sheet? I've got all kinds of different things that you may or may not use. You're going to use all this stuff, regular hours, overtime hours, your sick leave, your vacation I got in there. You don't touch any of these unless you're going to type over them for a very specific reason, like distributing hours into overtime or something that you didn't do right on the daily entry sheet. But in general, you're not going to mess with any of these dark cells. You're going to mess with the light colored cells. Did you put an hourly rate in for the person? Do they have a bonus or salary for this pay period? Do they have any garnishments? Are they getting reimbursed for some expense? That's not a taxable thing. They're just getting reimbursed for something. Is there a check number associated with this paycheck that you're creating? I've got the sick leave formulas. They're dark here. You don't touch them. They're automatically calculating accrued sick leave, the hour for every 40 during the week. I've got stuff for 401k match, insurance, health insurance, all this stuff. I don't think you have any of this, so we can just start hiding a lot of stuff. We can start hiding some stuff and then just kind of leave things that you might be interested in, like gross compensation, federal taxable gross, show if anything got deducted. How about the net paycheck? That's what that is. How about your workers' comp expenses? There's the employees and the employer portion. I did not give you a report for workers' comp yet, but I can add it to one of these pivots or create another report. There's a lot of reporting I still need to create for you here. But you got this stuff. You got unemployment and how much you owe for unemployment and what your excess wages would be. Federal tax, this could show what state tax is 0 because you're in Washington. Here's your paid family medical withholding at the 0.4%. I assume that's right. I looked up. It made sense what you said. I thought it would actually be half that, but I guess the full portion is covered by the employee. No local tax that I know of, and there's current federal tax withheld. That'll show you that one's an interesting one. You can hide all this, or you can just never go over there to the right. I mean, you've got options. I leave it all open But once you figure out exactly all the things that you use and the things that you don't use or don't care to see, we will just hide them all, and you'll have a reduced view of what you look at. But I like to show you everything at first. And when you understand that the cells with the dark fill in the background are formulas and you're not to touch them, that includes these too. These should really all just be black. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to make them that way right now. So all this stuff you don't touch, but then you can start touching stuff that has the light background. It's pretty easy to read that way when you look at it like that. All right, so your pay period records. So you've entered in like a full paycheck for those people. So then you have your pay stubs. You just choose the date and you choose the name right here. So I'm going to end up doing some more work on this pay stub. There's a lot of things I think you don't use that we can just flat out delete. Like you don't have employer group life insurance, gone. You don't have employer group health insurance, gone. Okay, let's get rid of health insurance. Let's get rid of health insurance or life insurance. Like you can see how this thing's going to shrink and it's going to get perfectly to what you need. I've done some quality assurance testing, but not a ton because we've done a lot of changes. So this is a work in progress still, but you can start testing it out. That's the point. I have to formulate the Form 943 so we can create a printable PDF. It automatically fills itself in. Do the same thing for the 940. I haven't done that yet, especially for the 940s and 943s. I'm used to working with 941s, which is what this report is right here. You won't need that, so we're going to have to work on this. I'll do that. I've got other pivots I can create, which we can talk about later. W-2s, which I need to figure out where and maybe this break compensation goes, or if there's any other weird things here that go on to the W-2s at the end of the year for certain people. And there's always other things that are going to come up, I'm sure, within a business of your size that has dozens and dozens of employees. So, all right, that was 16 minutes, a lot of stuff, but there's a lot to go over. So take a look at this, start playing with it, and then we'll pass back some questions and adjustments so that we can make this look the way we want to look and then start building the reports. In the meantime, I will work on these reports and get these things functional and printable properly and connected with formulas inside here. And I'll look forward to hearing from you. All right, take it easy.